A year after the catastrophic flooding in Galena, Eileen Pitka's house remains in shambles. The damage inside even worse.
There's 4 pilings that penetrated the inside the house. One came through the kitchen, one in the living room.
Her cousin Charlie Huntington came in from Fairbanks to help and has a lot of work ahead of him.
One in the bedroom and one in the furnace room.
Charlie has big plans for the house and only a short time to make it happen.
I'll raise the house up and crib it, put these posts back in, weld them all back in, put the house, settle it back down, and just as easy as that.
3 days.
3 days.
It will take a lot of hands pitching in with the hard work. Charlie and his friends are more than happy to help, though.
We grew up together. We grew up with Eileen, so she's single and obviously she needs a hand, so that's what we're here for.
Like Eileen's, several homes in Old Town look the same as they did a year ago. Front yards are filled with reminders of the devastation that passed through.
This was my porch, and my freezer is tipped over.
Jennifer Hildebrand's house in Newtown, Galena, was farther away from the river, but still hit hard by flooding.
Well, this is when it was still in water.
All she has left are pictures.
This was my room. You can see it got to right there.
Her home turned into waterfront property for 6 weeks before crews tore it down. With the community's help, she's happy to be back in the neighborhood.
I think that's what gave me the most comfort, seeing everybody come and help. And because I really had mixed emotions taking down my house, because that's the only house my kids have known.
Back in Old Town, Jake Pograbinski works on Gilbert Huntington's house while he's out of town guiding a hunting trip.
Something had to be done. The resources were in really short supply.
The self-described river rat is known around town as Jake the Russian. His home in Old Town was smashed by ice last spring. Now he's living in a wall tent. Over the winter, he lived in his boat. Jake has a love for craftsmanship, but doesn't have the money to fix his own home.
This is very selfish of me. I have chosen a project that I wanted to do. This is not the way people build here or in the rest of the state.
He does a lot of work with old-fashioned hand tools and says the style of the home is more akin to something you'd find in 7th century Scandinavia. The eye-catching architecture sits out of harm's way next to the Huntingtons' home that flooded last spring, when water rose 12 feet in some places.
The water came very close to going over the dike, within 3 or 4 inches. If it did go over the dike, Galena would be toast. This is why Gilbert put this place as high as the dike, because if the dike goes, might as well find a better fish camp.
But those things are so rotted, I can't go any further, though.
Just down the street, Charlie Huntington is still figuring out how to fix his cousin's house. Even a year later, he discovers surprises left behind.
I was saying, how come the floor won't go down like it's covering that piling? I got to get under there and cut it. Didn't know there was a boat down here, though.
His perseverance goes to show when your community needs you, you step up however you can.
It takes a lot of people for this kind of devastation. They'll never get back to where they were, though. It'll never be the same. I think we can get under here with that loader and get that middle one up.
But he'll do his part to make sure people in Galena have some place to call home, no matter how long it takes.
Come on, make some noise, let's hear you. 25 cents minimum, 50 cents maximum.
Step right up.
Good luck on your quarters.
And place your bet. It's gambling for a good cause.
So all the money that you lose here, you don't really lose, you just donate it.
But this isn't your average game of roulette.
Come on, cute little rat.
Here, 1, 2, 3.
The Palmer Elks Rat Race at the Alaska State Fair is actually older than the state itself.
I love this time. The fair is always fun, but this is a tradition. I mean, we're talking 4 generations come to this rat race.
4 for you.
For almost 60 years,
Fantastic.
carnival goers have laid down their quarters with faith the furry critter will return their winnings. Despite what its alliterative title suggests, the rat race actually uses gerbils because real rats can jump off the wheel and make a break for it. While some people have called the game cruel, these little guys actually have the easiest gig at the fair.
Realistically, these gerbils will work about 20 minutes every 2 days for 10 days, and then the rest of the year they eat and sleep and relax. We give them little special treats.
Behind the scenes, there's a whole team of reinforcements waiting to take a spin.
When you walk up here and you see this, you're thinking, wow, that's pretty cruel. But if you think about the average gerbil that's sold in a pet store, It winds up in a little plastic ball and the kids are chasing it and kicking it downstairs, and dogs and cats. So it's a pretty good life, actually.
3, 2, 1.
Once it's their turn to take center stage, many of the gerbils don't want to give up the spotlight. Their indecision keeps gamblers guessing whether they'll come out on top. At the end of the day, the Elks Club volunteers cash in and the gerbils go back to their cage, where it's a sure bet they'll get some much-needed peace and quiet after a hard day in the rat race. Heather Hintze, KTVA 11 News. The soldiers may be long gone, but their presence in Dutch Harbor is never forgotten. Pieces of World War II history can be found all over the island, from the abandoned underground hospital to an old Navy vessel sunk in Captain's Bay.
A lot of the bunkers they did empty out before they tore them down.
Perhaps the best place to go for a trip back in time is Mount Ballyhoo.
This is one of the old bunkers that you can walk through still.
Lydia Gordon grew up in Dutch Harbor, playing in the empty buildings. For her, World War II is more than just facts in a book or even remnants in the mountains. It's a history her family lived.
They didn't really talk about it at all. It was something that I think was so traumatic for them that they didn't want to relive it.
Her grandparents were evacuated and sent to an internment camp in southeast Alaska when the military took over.
They had to give up their homes and live in conditions that were really bad. People don't understand how bad the conditions really were and how many people were lost. In fact, my grandparents lost their baby.
The struggle of the Aleut people is well documented at the World War II Center in Dutch Harbor, run by the Unalaska Native Corporation.
They lived in an old fish camp that was very, very bad shape.
Vietnam veteran Vincent Tudiakoff also had family members forced from their homes.
My grandmother and all of my uncles and aunts my sister, were all taken from this community. And as I was growing up, I started to learn a little bit about it. A lot of it was people would not talk about it. It was a very sad part of our history.
Surrounded by pieces of the past, Vincent remembers not only those who died in the camps, but also the soldiers who lost their lives during the attacks. For him, Veterans Day is about finding closure.
We think it's time to heal some of our wounds that we have internally. Some of us have not fully recovered.
He hopes those who visit the museum might also get a sense of peace while carrying on the memories of the Aleutian community.
Mostly this museum is here to show that Unalaska Dutch Harbor has a place in this history, and the Aleut people are part of that history.
Back on Mount Ballyhoo, the silence envelops the relics high on the hillside.
It's a peaceful feeling, but a sad one at the same time, just thinking of what they all went through.
It's a history that's hard to forget when it's all around you. Heather Hintze, KTVA 11 News.